Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a cast interview that I'm doing here with Dylan Knight, who plays Blue in the show. Dylan, hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. And thank you for asking me to come along and answer your questions.
It's a pleasure. So, tell me something about yourself. How did you start acting? What was the first sort of inkling that you were going to do acting as a thing, whether that be a hobby or professional, whatever?
Now, really, I started out doing dance because at school we were involved in a project in South Yorkshire where all the schools had to perform a little snippet of dance for a bigger show, which was based on Homer's The Odyssey. And that was really my first introduction into performance, and I loved it. I absolutely, well and truly loved it. But what I really wanted to do was act. So it was from there I got that, and then when reading out scripts in English, that kind of thing, that's when I thought, actually, you know what, I really enjoy this. I want to do more of this. And so I went into performing arts in college, and eventually worked my way into doing performances and shows and such. So
what was the thing that actually made you want to act, as opposed to because obviously you said you'd started with dance. What was the moment when you go, actually, I want to do this acting thing? And did you have any influences at the time that kind of pushed you in that direction at all?
The real answer to that is I wanted to do it when it came to my very last year in school, because we kept getting all this information about going to these job courses and all these different, there was a name for Kudos, I think it was called Kudos back then. And every time that we all filled in this form to see what this would be a good job for you to leave school, this could be a good job for you to leave school, so on and so on. And all the while I could think of was, I want to perform. I want to do more dance. I want to do more. I want to go into acting. I want to go into learning drama and such. And so from there, that's where the bug really kind of bit. But really, I think it came from going to pantomimes when I was a kid. Because we'd often go down to the...
Was pantomime kind of a big thing when you were a kid? Because my memories of pantomime were we went like once or twice, and that was it. Did you have a better time when it came to pantomimes than that?
I guess so. It was one of those things where our school, we would go to see a pantomime every year at the Lyceum Theatre or in the Sheffield Crucible. And there was one when I was in the Cubs where we went to go and see I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Dick Whittington. It might have been Aladdin, whichever one at the time, at the Sheffield City Hall. And all I remember is getting into this. Even my mum talks about this, where the dame at the time, she's talking about, she's got this cabbage, she's got this huge cabbage, and she says, I mean, who's going to want that? And me as a kid sat in the front row went, me, I'll have it. She goes, what, really? Yeah. So she threw me this cabbage, and I loved it just because not only did I get a real cabbage from this performance and it was mine and we could actually have that at home, it was kind of also my very first attempt or very first inkling into being at the centre of attention just for at least 5 minutes.
That's a big thing, I think, with a lot of performers. There's always there's a moment where they're the centre of attention, and then suddenly they go, that's what I want to do. I want to be that centre of attention again. Isn't it? So have you subsequently been in any pantomimes at all?
No.
It's not. Would you, if you were asked?
Yeah. I mean, if there was a pantomime that was going on, and I really wanted to do it,
as they might say in pantomime, there was a massive opening. Is that where we're heading with this?
I think it is. Yeah.
So how did that? How did that turn into? Well, now I want to act, and what goals did you have when you first started off acting? You know, was there a particular position you wanted to get to, or was it just a case of you knew you wanted to do it, and you just whatever it was, you keep on pursuing that?
It was that one. It was I knew what I wanted to do. And I'm one of those actors where I never said, "Oh, I want to play Othello" or "I want to play Hamlet" or anything like that. I had no real character except for one. I wanted to play the vampire Lestat in Anne Rice's any of her books turned into a production. That's what I wanted to do at the time. In my late teens, but that would be the nearest thing I ever came to that. Saying that though. The Crucible is one of my favorite plays ever.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I thought I would love to play the character of John in that. And really, going back to watching a more recent performance of it, I thought, you know what? I'm more of a Mr. Hale kind of guy. And I would really love to get stuck into that particular character there.
Do you find your tastes in kind of who you might want to play have changed over the years? Do you something that you might want to have done when you were 16, 17, 18, 19 years old suddenly becomes something that actually you wouldn't consider now, and you go, actually, no, this character's much more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think trying to remember when I was in my late teens, the kind of characters I wanted to play were all main characters, all of them, and I guess I wanted to play the hero kind of character back then. Whereas as my acting experience grew and grew, and the more I did, I was more interested in playing the other characters. I'm more of a eccentric kind of personality in real life anyway, and that is the kind of thing I'm actually drawn to in the characters that I play. So if the character is interesting to me, I want to make them as interesting as possible. So if I'm playing a butler in a murder mystery, say, that's how I worked with Tash, by the way. I decided to not just make him a very stiff and boring kind of butler. No. Let's have some fun with it. It's how if that character kind of resonates with you, you want to bring that out. You want to also show the world who that character is. You're not there to perform as a two-dimensional version of a butler. You're
Sure.
to give that as an actual three-dimensional character, and that's what I always strive to do. And that's something that my 18-year-old self never knew.
Even with that, is there anything that you think, oh, I wouldn't mind having a go at this, or I wouldn't mind doing that? I'm guessing you wouldn't say no to anything specifically if it came along and if it was a opportunity to do something big. Is there anything in particular that you think you would really love to go for that hasn't come along yet, that you'd like to work towards getting?
Give me a lead character in Star Trek, and I'd love to play that.
Really? Because we can see the Doctor Who things on your wall, and eagle-eyed viewers would know that all of that is Doctor Who. It's all classic Doctor Who. So that's clearly something that you like the sci-fi stuff. Yeah?
Absolutely. That's realistically looking back on it and thinking on your question from earlier. Because I grew up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, that's kind of where I got the thing of, I'd like to give acting a bit of a go. So I was doing impressions of.
So if you were asked to be in like Discovery or Picard or Lower Decks or something, that would be something you'd jump at the chance to do that.
I would totally jump at that. Yeah, absolutely. Even with Doctor Who, if I was to play a character in there, absolutely. If I get to play the Doctor themselves, even better.
So how has acting kind of benefited you? What are the things that you've got from it, that perhaps things that you didn't think you would get from it when you first went into it? What are the things that you found that you've really engaged with acting?
In terms of myself or acting generally?
Yeah, in terms of yourself.
In terms of myself, I would say it's actually helped me to actually look at who I am and who I was when I first started. because when I first started acting, because I went down the academic route, going from college to university, and doing a course in drama that way. I never went to drama school, so I went through a course that was talking about drama and acting, but it wasn't specifically acting course. And then I was lucky enough to actually go into a part-time job at the same time in a local theatre attraction. So I could go there and be my different characters in the weekend, and getting paid for it because that was my job then, and studying performance arts and drama as well. But the danger in doing that, I think, is that because when you're young, you don't really know who you are. So you've got these ideas who you want to be, but actually discovering who you really are at that moment in time, you have no real personality of your own. You're trying to put on, you've got all these facades that you're trying to make yourself into, and it's only through time, age, and experience that you actually find out who you really are. And so I would say that acting has actually taught me about how to reflect on that, because as well as putting all this work into the different kind of characters that I play, actually, who is Dylan Knight really? So when I'm not being that character anymore, who am I really? And so,
And do you think that that's one of the things that the creative arts are important for for that sort of personal growth? And what else? What else do you think the creative arts bring to the community? I suppose
I'd say that the creative arts are they're about communication. Performance is about communication. You're communicating emotions. You're communicating the work in physicality and voice and appearance, and you're performing as this completely different person to you, and in some way or form that will resonate with other people, and they will remember that particular performance. And so the creative arts themselves, yes, on one hand, they're great for helping you discover who you are, but they also help us to expand upon creativity as a community and in people as well. If anything, creativity should be encouraged, absolutely, whether it's drawing, artistry, acting, dancing, all of it, music as well. And because there are ways that these can help people come to terms with things in themselves. So the reason I say about resonance and character is because it's like reading a book or watching a theatre piece, and there'll be a particular character that you're drawn to because somehow, in some weird way, you'll be able to relate to that character. And that will
okay, so that's a kind of an interesting question. Are there any? Is there any particular actor who's influenced you in the way that you act? Is there a point where somebody will say to you, "Do it like this," and you suddenly think, "Oh, well, there's that performance in this thing with this particular actor that I'm going to do it like"? Or do you draw from something else in order to create the characters that you portray?
In a strange kind of way, I just kind of draw things from different places. So if I'm doing if I'm doing an accent for a character, then I would have learned that accent, usually by listening to things over and over and over again. So, for example, my Liverpudlian accent is based on Craig Charles, because I just listen
Same
to his
here,
voice.
Unfortunately.
That's all right.
Yes,
and in a weird way, in a weird way, there are parts of Blue Voice where I've kind of based it a little bit, and I mean a little bit, like 0.5%, a little bit on David Tennant's voice for his voice for the Doctor every now and then. Of course, when I listen to Blue, it doesn't sound like anything like David Tennant, not at all. But the idea of being almost a little bit Southern for that character, for me, I drew that influence from there. But is there a performer that I would say I have kind of taken influence from? That's like trying to ask which one's my favorite performer.
That's fair enough. Now you mentioned Blue just a second ago, so let's actually talk about the character itself. Tell us a bit about him. How, in your mind, who is he? What's he? I obviously don't go too far into this because we'll release this well before the next episode comes out. But
Sure.
yeah, so who is he in your mind when you sort of reach for that character? Who is he? What does he do? Who is he? What does he like? You know.
Now, most of that I can't actually answer because that all comes out in later episodes. But Blue, in his present predicament of waking up in this completely bizarre place, which is his panic room, and then listening to this generic murder voice telling him that they've all got to choose someone else to die. And so the stakes are up against him. And obviously this is real because there's this gas which keeps coming out in his panic room, which makes him fall asleep, and then he wakes up, but he's got no memory of who he was. But he's beginning to piece things together because he's recognizing certain voices, or he has an image of being with a woman in his panic room, and he feels a familiarity with one of the voices. And so Blue, as you meet him presently right now, he's playing a game. He's playing a game of, okay, let's try and keep a cool head. And actually, at the same time, I'm really, really shitting myself because he could die.
So, what was the process that you actually used to start to create to create that character? Where did you take that from?
First of all, and as strange as it sounds, and as boring as it sounds, you read the script. You don't just go into any script and just go, oh, I'm just going to pull out a character out of a hat. So no, I read the script first of all, just to learn what the show is about, and also who my character is. And I don't mean just look at my lines and that's it. Like, no, you read the whole thing, and then you go, okay, so this is the character I've got. So my process for Blue is read the script, and then you start work around that. You look into the back history. So we've all had character dossiers of who our characters really are and what their history is. And then we start relating to that. Each individual actor has their own way of doing things. Mine in particular is read the script, read any information that you can glean about your character and their history and who they really are. Who are their parents? Who are their siblings? And how do they react to those? It turns out that Blue is actually quite a selfish character. So why is he a selfish character? So while looking into his history and looking into the things he says later on, you find it's because of certain things I can't mention right now.
So
it's just frustrating.
Talk to me about the production itself. What were your favourite parts about the actual production?
My favourite parts were when everybody was together on Clean Feed and we could actually all talk to each other and communicate with each other. Because as the time goes on, there are certain actors you don't see again because their character is no longer in that episode or they are elsewhere. And you actually begin to miss people. And I think if you start missing people, that's when you know you're in a good group. So that's always a good thing. But one of my favourite things really was the personal interviews with Tash, where you've got Blue talking with Detective Powers. Because I've worked with Tash on at least 3 of the productions previously, which sounds massively favouriteist, I know, but sorry. We already have a banter, if that makes sense. We already know where we can push each other. So when it came to the interviews of Blue with the detective, we got to play a lot of that, and we had really good energy and really good flow, and we could start picking on each other in character as well. So those are my favorite ones. Those are my favorite scenes to do because we already had that kind of creative familiarity.
And clearly there were a lot of good bits. Yeah, clearly there were a lot of good bits about the production, but and about being in the production. But did you find, what were the major challenges of doing a show that was socially distanced? That wasn't a kind of a traditional everybody gets together and reads their part and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it was the very first time I've ever done a production where I haven't met most of the cast before. Saying that, and actually think about that at the same time, I've already done that. Last year, I was involved in an online film called Torn 19 about a fictional virus, and none of the characters.
So you don't think you're being typecast at all, then?
No, absolutely not. I think it's just the time that we're in, to be honest, and you can't really do much about that. And so you learn to adapt. That's the wonderful thing about human adaptability. You get creative and you start doing stuff in different ways. That's one of the strengths of this production, I think. Okay, so this is the second production I've done where I've not been in the same room or set as the other actors. The problems that you have there is that it's mainly technical. So, for example, if my computer decides to be really, really, really slow when it comes to working on clean feed, then the sound quality is not going to be as good. I'm going to have to reboot the computer and so on. Poor Matthew with his laptop, for example, which caused him no end of issues. And that's when you have difficulty, when technology stops working as you want it to. And because technology can only work as you want it to, it just depends. But there are factors, of course, and I'm waffling now. But
okay, so what did you personally take away from the process of doing this? You know, what have you learned during this production?
How to talk into a microphone, because
there was a lot of that.
Really done that recently. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that in this production. Definitely. I've done some voice work before, and it was in this particular production that because I'm mainly from a theatrical background, I got to actually channel that again, and that seemed to work. And there was a distinct difference between those of us who were theatre trained and those of us who were video trained, because when talking into the microphone, those of us who were theatrical were more naturally inclined towards it, because we would end up talking at the microphone and putting the emphasis in the voice as you would as if you're throwing your voice out into the stage into the audience,
which is how you're meant to do it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And when you see these videos, like on any animation, where you've got the actor doing this full physicality behind the microphone, until you're doing it, it looks a bit weird, looks a bit odd. Like, oh, what a bunch of pretentious wankers, you know. But no, that's part of the process. So going back to your question about what was the process for Blue, apart from reading the script, learning who they are, and reading any character background information, how you translate that is how you individually work. But what I found worked a lot was visualizing. So when I'm talking to the microphone, I am completely visualizing the scenario he's in. So whenever there's a click, or where it says in the script there's a click or a noise, or we hear something, I would actually react as Blue reacts, and then you start developing that character from there, which is how does that person react? Not how Dylan react, but how does Blue react? And so this whole thing about talking into the microphone, it just you got so used to it that I'm actually fighting the urge to even reach over to a microphone right now, which isn't standing there because I put it away.
It's a weird experience if you've not done it before. To sort of act in front of a microphone.
For example, if I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons with my friends on Zoom, which we do, every now and then while we're playing, I find myself doing this, which is me leaning towards the microphone. So, I would say that the real thing I took away from this was
mic technique. That sounds
technique.
like
Yeah. It's mic technique.
Okay, so we're in, just to finish off, just to sort of round everything off, we're in a kind of difficult situation in the arts at the moment. You know, a lot of people can't work. A lot of productions have had to be put on hold or just cancelled completely. What do you think the arts industry could do themselves to kind of get us over this hump, so that when we do come out of the pandemic, when the lockdowns end, when we can go back into theatres and start to make proper productions again, that we're not sort of really trodden down, that we can that we can catch that as soon as possible and then start to run with it? What do you think we could do about that?
First of all, not to listen to the government's advice of, well, can't you just do something else? The people that go into performance and the arts are creative people. And so the strength is in creation. And so I think the real safest thing that we can do is just to stay doing that. Yes, we have bills to pay, so we have to do that in various different ways if we have to, especially if we're in a situation where if we're furloughed and the money is not great and we have to sacrifice our performance for that for a temporary time, then fine, then we have to do that. But realistically, keep on with the creative stuff, whether it's finding online workshops or whether it's just getting together in huddles. I think what we've seen a lot more is that a lot of creative people, a lot of performing people, and anybody in the industry have been creating bubbles where they sort of network or just stay together. And that's got to keep on going, because a lot of actors are getting together to just read scripts just to keep that creative process going. It's also a way of keeping their ability sharp. And if there are those of us who can actually make this into or even doing things like this, where we've made a performance specifically for in a lockdown situation. That's why it's kind of set in these panic rooms, because they are individual and all the performers are separate. It's also finding about ways of performance that aren't the usual standard ways. And if that involves having a whole bunch of people come together on Zoom and making a program to do that, then fine. Until we get to the situation where we can start filling the theatres again or start working on sets for making TV programs and films, it might be a while until we do that again. So I think the only thing we can do is keep that creative energy going, but also get creative with finding the medium for that.
Well, Dylan, that's it for this round of questions. Thank you ever so much for coming along. And
that's
for everybody who's watching right now, do please comment on the video, ask any questions. We might do a follow-up with people. So if you'd like to know anything about Dylan or anything about talk about anything he said, then please leave comments below. Give us a like, a thumbs up, because that's always welcome. And of course, if you're completely new here and you haven't seen these videos before, click on the subscribe button, the little bell icon at the end, and the all notifications tab that pops up so that you won't miss any of the videos that we put out. And crucially, those videos are going to include the episodes and the interviews as well. Until next time, thanks ever so much for coming along. We'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.